بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. This is very end of the book, so maybe tonight we can finish the book apart from the beginning of chapter 5 that we left for later. Maybe it takes more than one session, we will see, because there are very beautiful hadiths here. We don't want to rush. As you remember, Allama Tabatabai Rahmatullah Alayhi said that for Muqarrabun, for Mukhlasin, for Awliyaullah, there are three levels of fana, annihilation, with respect to af'al, with respect to sifat, so actions, attributes, and finally al-dhat, essence. It's the highest. We have already talked about the first two, al-fana fil-af'al, al-fana fil-sifat. So now Allah says, ثُمَّ يَفْنَى مِنْهُمُ الذَّاتِ. Then essence would be annihilated. What does it mean? Inactions means they saw their actions as actions of God. In attributes meant that any quality like knowledge, etc., they saw it as belonging to God. In Zat, it means that their own personal identity as something independent from God would disappear. So they would have no ism or rasm. It says, يَفْنَى مِنْهُمُ الذَّاتِ وَيَنْمَحِ الْإِسْمُ وَالرَّاسْمُ. Name and rasm. Rasm means, when there are traces of something, or a sign of something, a picture of something, this is called rasm. So basically means nothing remains from them by themselves. They physically are there. It's not that they don't exist anymore. They exist anymore. They exist still more, but no identity, no separation. وَيَقُومُ الْحَقُّ سُبْحَانَهُ مَقَامَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take over, would stand in their place. This is very much different from incarnation. We don't believe in incarnation, that God settles in someone. No, God is so great that even the whole world cannot contain him. What we mean by this is that this person is no longer like a separated, island, or separated shell. Allah is everywhere for them, including in themselves. They find Allah everywhere, including their own selves in this. As you know, Allama Tabatabai has several essays or short books called Risala. He wrote maybe all of them or most of them, at least in Tabriz, before coming to Qom. Although he considers those years in Tabriz that he had to spend on improving family, farming, and looking after the financial needs of the family, etc. He says they were not very productive years compared to the years he was in Najaf, compared to the years that he moved to Qom. But it's not that he didn't do anything there. He has some of the very good books written in Tabriz. And anyway, one of the Risalah, plural is Risalat, or Rasail perhaps, it's a better to say Rasail, is Risalatun fi Tawheed. As he has also Risalatun, for example, about Insan, which is Insan qabla dunya, fi dunya, ba'da dunya. So he has different essays. In Risalatul Tawheed, Allama says, قد ذكر في آخر رسالة التوحيد. He doesn't say zakartu. Maybe he doesn't want to see himself. Maybe he has reached a point that he is not seeing himself. So he says it's written, it's mentioned in the end of Risalatul Tawheed, أن هذا المقام أجل من أن يقع عليه اللفظ وأن تمسه إشارة. This position of fana fi dhat is too great to be referred to by any term or to touch it with any indication or hint. Even we cannot say it is maqam, because up to here a person is moving from one station to another station, but by the end of the journey this person is disappearing. So it's not a person in a station. لأن إطلاق المقام عليهم مجاز. This is metaphoric to call it مقام. وأنه مما فتحه الله للنبي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. This is something that Allah has opened up for His Prophet. So it means Allah has given him access to it. So the Prophet reached this position. وَلَحِقَهُ الطَّاهِرُونَ مِنْ آلِهِ. His pure family members, household also joined him. This is in Risalatul Tawheed. وَأَقُولُ. And now I say, not only Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam would reach this position, also from from Muslim nation, also there are people who can reach this position. And this is a bashara that it's possible for us as well. أقول الآن إنه يلحقهم أولياء من أمتي. So Ahlul Bayt follow the Prophet and join him. True believers who are awliyaullah follow Ahlul Bayt. If you remember in discussion about Wilayah, and in my paper Probe into the Nature of Wilayah, I have quoted a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that he says, أَلَيْسَ الْعَدْلُ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ, isn't the justice of your Lord to make any nation join their Imam? Referring to the ayah, يَوْمَ نَدْعُ كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. You can find this hadith in the books of tafsir, many books of tafsir. I think in Al-Mizan, Tafsir Numune, both of them I think have this. Then Imam Sadiq says, we will join the Prophet and you will join us. So you follow him, you will follow us. And then he says, إِلَىٰ أَيْنَ تَرَوْنَ يُذْهَبُ بِكُمْ, where do you think you will be taken? Then he says, إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَرَبِّ الْكَعْبَةِ قَالَهَا ثَلَاث مَرَّاتٍ. He mentioned 3 times that towards heaven by the Lord of Kaaba. So if we choose them as our imams and leaders, Allah says, يَوْمَ نَدْعُ كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. So we will join them on the Day of Judgment and we'll go with them. Therefore in Ziyarat Ashura we say, وَأَنْ يُبَلِّغَنِ الْمَقَامَ الْمَحْمُودَ لَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. I request Allah to enable me reach the praise position that belongs to you close to Him. That's their position, but we can reach that position. So Allah says, يَلْحَقُهُمْ الطَّاهِرُونَ مِنْ آلِهِ. الطَّاهِرُونَ لَحِقَهُ, they join the Prophet, and mu'minin can join Ahlul Bayt. يَلْحَقُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ مِنْ أُمَّتِهِ لِلرِّوَايَاتِ الدَّالَّةِ كَثِيرَةِ الدَّالَّةِ, because of many hadiths that indicate أن الله سبحانه يلحق بهم شيعتهم في الدرجات في الآخرة. Allah would make their followers join them in the hereafter, in their ranks. Of course, it doesn't mean that they will become equal. No, it's luhuq. Luhuq is different from owning originally and primarily something. When a king, for example, goes to a country to visit, he takes many people with him. They will join him, but they are not the same as the king, although they may be even put in the same hotel. Some of them go everywhere with the king, but it doesn't mean they are equal in rank. In addition to what he said in Risalat al-Tawheed, he says, أقول الآن أنه يلحقهم أولياء من أمتي. Some of awliyaullah, some of their followers and followers of Allah, or believers in Allah from Ummah, they join Ahlul Bayt. Ahlul Bayt joined the Prophet. He said, لَحِقَهُ الطَّاهِرُونَ مِنْ آلِهِ, and these people, يَلْحَقُهُمْ, means يَلْحَقُ الطَّاهِرِينَ مِنْ آلِهِ. Why we say this? لِلرِّوَايَاتِ الْكَثِيرَةِ الدَّالَّةِ, because there are many hadiths that indicate Allah anna Allah subhanahu يُلْحِقُ بِهِمْ. يَلْحَقُ means to join. يُلْحِقُ means to make something join something else. يُلْحِقُ بِهِمْ شِيعَتَهُمْ فِي الدَّرَجَاتِ فِي الْآخِرَةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make their followers join them, lets them join them in the ranks in the hereafter. وفي رواية الديلمي الآتية. There is a hadith that comes later. It says وينقل من دار الفنا إلى دار البقاء ومن دار الشيطان إلى دار الرحمن. He will be moved. If we read ينقل, if we say ينقل means Allah moves them. If we say ينقل means he will be moved from the world of fana, expiration, to the world of baqa, eternity. From dar al-shaytan, the abode of shaitan, to the abode of ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says, what Allah has promised other nations about positions and the ways that he is going to honor them and karamat that he is going to give them, it is possible for mu'mineen of this nation to reach in dunya. It's a very important point. Even يَوْمَ نَدْعُو كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ, every nation will join their imams on the day of judgment. But awliyaullah from this nation can join their imam in dunya, in addition to akhirah that everyone can join. And يَجْعَلَنِي مَعَكُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ, or يُثَبِّتَ لِي قَدَمَ صِدْقٍ عِنْدَكُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Those of you who studied Lubbul Lubab, remember when we talked about Ustad Khas, specific, particular mentor, we talked about also joining Imam. And we said it's not in the sense that Imam is, for example, physically with them. Maybe it's time of ghaibah. But Imam is with their spirit. Imam guides them. I read this sentence again. وَمِنْهُ يَظْهَرُ أَنَّمَا وَعَدَ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ للأمم من المقامات والكرامات في الآخرة مرزوق للأولياء في الدنيا وفيها اللحوق بإمامهم. What Allah has promised nations from positions and karamat. Karama is a way to honor or something to give as an honorarium, and here means gifts and blessings that Allah has for them in akhirah. Marzuqun lil awliya is given to the awliyaullah from this ummah, as he said, min ummat awliya min ummatihi fi dunya, in dunya. Wa fiha al-luhuq bi imamihim, and one of those karamat and gifts is to join their imam. Allah says, this position, هذا المقام الذي عرفت, this position that you just learned and came to know, أجل من المقام, is greater than being a station or position. قد عبر عنهم الأئمة في الأخبار المستفيضة النافية للصفات. Imams alayhim salam in hadith which are mustafida. Mustafida means many hadith have been narrated which convey the same message. Mustafid is less than mutawatir. It's not mutawatir. It's not that frequently mentioned generation by generation that becomes certain. But still it's many. It's not just khabar wahid. Many people have narrated this. There are many parallel chains. So in the hadith that refer to the denial of sifat, we find this. فَلِلْأَوْلِيَاءِ مِنَ الْأُمَّةِ. So awliyaullah from this ummah, le is for them is what? Al-luhuq. They can join bihim. They can join imams. بِنَحْوِ الْوِرَاثَةِ فِي ذَلِكَ. In the way of inheritance. We say, for example, that al-ulama warathatul anbiya. Ulama inherit from the prophets, but not they inherit dirham or dinar. They don't inherit, coin of silver or gold. They inherit knowledge. They inherit light. So this is a kind of viratha, not biological viratha, of course. One of the gifts for awliya, سيرهم في خلال العوالم المتوسطة بينهم في الدنيا وبين ربهم عز اسمه كما مر. One of the gifts is that they can go through the realms between them and the Lord in dunya. They don't need to wait till they die and then in barzakh and on the day of judgment ascend. In dunya they can complete the journey. Therefore, for them, death is not a big change. Now he refers to the hadith that he said before, from Daylami. One of the important books about akhlaq is Irshadul Qulub for Daylami. Daylam is a region in northern Iran near Caspian Sea. Daylam. So this person was from that area, so he's called Daylami. Allam Majlisi Rahmatullah Alayhi in Biharul Anwar cites from Irshadul Qulub of Daylami. وذكر السندين لهذا الحديث, and he mentions two parallel chains of narration for this hadith. This is in the hadith. قال الله تعالى يا أحمد. It seems that this is hadith al-Mi'raj, or part of hadith al-Mi'raj, the ascension to heaven. The Prophet in heaven is called Ahmad. On the earth he is called Muhammad. So in Mi'raj Allah says, Ya Ahmad, هل تدري أي عيش أهنا. Ahna becomes sometimes with takhfif hamza ahna. We say hani'an. It's hamza, but sometimes hamza is made into ya, ahna. وَأَيُّ حَيَاةٍ أَبْقَى. Do you know which type of life is more pleasant and which type of life is more enduring? قال اللهم لا. I don't know. This is adab of the Prophet, that he says, I don't know, meaning I don't have any knowledge of my own. Allah says, وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. Allah found you dhal and gave you hidayah. Not in the sense that Prophet was na'uzubillah in dunya misguided, in the sense that we don't have anything of our own. We just talked about fana. If we have life, it's from Him. إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. If we have hidayah, it's from Him. أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. So therefore the Prophet says, I don't know. If I have any knowledge, it's what you have given me. قال أما العيش الهنيء فهو الذي لا يفتر صاحبه عن ذكري. A pleasant life is the one whose owner, means the one who lives this life, is not stopping remembering me, is not getting tired of remembering me. Maybe you say, why? What is the connection? The connection is mentioned in the Quran. من أعرض عن ذكري فإن له معيشة ضنكا. Whoever turns away from my remembrance would have a very pressurized life. Aisha Hani cannot be Ma'ishatan Dhanka. It's opposite. Aisha Hani means you can relax, no stress, no pressure. So it needs remembrance of Allah. وَلَا يَنْسَى نِعْمَتِي. Would not forget my blessings. وَلَا يَجْهَلُ حَقِّي. Is not ignorant about my rights. يَطْلُبُ رِضَائِي فِي لَيْلِهِ وَالنَّهَارِ. He is seeking my pleasure day and night. During his day, during his night, he's seeking my pleasure. This makes your life hani, pleasant, enjoyable. And this is something that you can have it without interruption. Anything worldly might be interrupted. But if the aim is Rizallah, even if you are ill, if you are poor, you can always achieve it. أما الحياة الباقية, because the question was, do you know أي عيش أهنى وأي حياة أبقى? أبقى is from بقى. باقية is اسم فاعل. أما الحياة الباقية فهي التي يعمل لنفسه حتى تهون عليه الدنيا وتصغر في عينه وتعظم الآخرة عنده. Enduring life is the one in which the person works for himself, not in a selfish way. It means that, as the Quran says, عليكم أنفسكم يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم. Or in the sense that إن أحسنتم أحسنتم لأنفسكم. So يعمل لنفسه is trying to improve himself. To the extent that dunya becomes hayyan, tahun. Hana yahunu, hayyan, fahuwa hayyan. Hayyan is mean, not that much valuable. Dunya becomes very small in his eyes. Amir al-Mu'minin Khutbatul Muttaqin said, عظم الخالق في أنفسهم فصغر ما دونه في أعينهم. If dunya is great in your eyes, akhirah becomes small. If dunya is small, akhirah becomes great. وتعظم الآخرة عنده ويؤثر. يؤثر is from إيثار, means to prefer. يؤثر هواي على هواه. This is a sign of mu'min, a sign of wali of Allah. He may or she may have desires. It takes time till our desires will be all godly. But at least we should prefer His will over our desires. What He wants or what we want. يؤثر هواي على هواه ويبتغي مرضاتي, and seeks my pleasure. ويعظم حق نعمتي. He considers the right that I have over him for the blessings I have given him to be great. So he wouldn't underestimate or take it for granted what I have given him. وَيَذْكُرُ عَمَلِي بِهِ. He remembers my actions with this. Perhaps it means he would remember that he should work for me. وَيُرَاقِبُنِي بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ. Day and night he is doing muraqabah. Muraqabah of me means he would observe me. وَمِنْ كَخَائِفًا مُرَاقِبًا يَا ذَا الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ مناجات الشعبانية. So, what does it mean he would do muraqabah of me? Means when he comes across any act of obedience or any act of disobedience, he remembers me and is careful. عند كل سيئة أو معصية. Whenever he is faced with a sayyah or ma'asiyah, he remembers me to avoid. When it's something wajib, he remembers to bring. وَيُنَقِّي قَلْبَهُ عَنْ كُلِّ مَا أَكْرَهُ. He cleans his heart from anything that I dislike. وَيُبْغِضُ الشَّيْطَانِ وَوَسَاوِسَهُ. It seems the wav is missing here. Or if there is no wav, so we have to take it as atf bayan or badal. He dislikes shaitan and temptations of shaitan. And what is important is, shaitan has no authority. مَا كَانَ لِيَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ. Unless we give him control. Allah has not given him the key to the heart. You can seal your heart to shaitan, lock it. But if we give the key to shaitan and invite him, that's different. So لا يجعل لإبليس على قلبه سلطانا وسبيلا. Would not put for Iblis any authority over his heart or any path towards or into his heart. What happens? We had this in, I think, self-development. We had this hadith, and in self-knowledge. This part at least. فَإِذَا فَعَلَ ذَلِكَ أَسْكَنْتُ قَلْبَهُ حُبًّا. If he does this, and because if we poison our heart, then this doesn't happen. But if we are careful and clean our heart and make sure shaitan doesn't get into it, then أَسْكَنْتُ قَلْبَهُ حُبًّا. I would put in his heart love. He falls in love with me. حتى أجعل قلبه لي. His heart becomes for me. وفراغه واشتغاله وهمه. If he is busy or not busy, اشتغال means to be engaged, to be busy. Faragh means to be free. So whether he is busy or not, it's for me and with me. Ham, his concern is about me. When he speaks, وحديثه من النعمة التي أنعمت بها على أهل محبتي من خلق. He talks about the blessings that Allah has given to the people that He has gifted with mahabba, with love. So أهل محبتي من خلقي, those who love me from my people. وأفتح عين قلبه وسمعه حتى يسمع بقلبه وينظر بقلبه إلى جلالي وعظمتي. I stop with this sentence. So this was my last sentence for tonight, because we have had lots of interruptions, and I don't want to, rush. I want you to be, relaxed in listening. So basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this amazing hadith says, what happens is that He first tries to purify Himself. Then when He has purified Himself, especially His heart, I gift Him with love for me. When love comes, automatically changes happen. أجعل قلبه لي. His heart becomes for me, because heart belongs to beloved. His engagement is for me. If he is concerned, is for me. If he talks, is about me and my blessings. And then something happens to his idrak, to his understanding. أفتح عين قلبه وسمعه. I open the eye and ear of his heart. Our body has eyes and ears. We talked about it before, if you remember. And also the heart, we said before. لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها. So I open the eye and ear of his heart حتى يسمع بقلبه وينظر بقلبه, till he would listen and he would listen and look with his heart to what and at what? إلى means يسمع إلى وينظر إلى جلالي وعظمتي, my glory and grandeur. It is still, for a moment with, lots of effort, still is not possible to see the glory of Allah and the beauty of Allah. When you reach the point that you have purified your heart, love is there, then your eyes of heart, your ears of heart will be opened. Then you can witness glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is when then remembrance of Allah would be very, a strong experience for them. وأضيق عليه الدنيا وأبغض إليه ما فيها من اللذات. I have a point to share about this أضيق عليه الدنيا. I make dunya, small for him and a place that is not comfortable. There's a point that I would like to, inshallah, explain in the next session. So I stop here and just as a quick summary of what we said. First, we completed the discussion about 3 levels of fana. We talked about fana fi dhat, annihilation with respect to the essence in this session, after talking about the annihilation with respect to the actions and attributes in the previous session. Then after that, Allama said that from hadith we can understand that awliyaullah can join Ahlul Bayt as Ahlul Bayt joined the Prophet in reaching this position of fana fi dhat. If other nations have access to it in the hereafter and Allah gives them this in the hereafter, this is possible to be given to awliya from this ummah fi dunya, and they can join their imam in dunya as well as akhirah. And then he started citing part of Hadith Mi'raj from Biharul Anwar, and Allama Malisi, of course, in turn had cited from Irshad al-Qulub of Daylami. And we said that Allah asked the Prophet, do you know which life is more pleasant and which life is more enduring? Rasulullah said no, and then Allah explained. The life which is pleasant is when you don't hesitate to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't forget His blessings, you seek His pleasure day and night. The life which is enduring is when someone really works for his own growth, dunya becomes small in his eyes, akhirah becomes great in his eyes. He would prefer pleasure of Allah over his own desires. He seeks pleasure of Allah, and day and night he's monitoring and observing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will, and then his heart will be cleaned and purified, and then love of Allah would settle in the heart, and his engagement would be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his conversation would be focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah opens the ears and eyes of the heart, and he can see and listen to greatness and glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we continue this hadith in the next session, and maybe we finished this part in next session, inshallah. And then we go back to the beginning of chapter 4, where we had a philosophical discussion. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all of us in our journey towards Him, to enable us to reach the maximum of our capacity and to increase our capacity. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to follow the footsteps of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and their true awliya, inshallah. May Allah send His salutations to the soul of Allama Tabatabai and his teachers. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you very much, Sheikh.
You're welcome. I am very sorry that this happened, but there is nothing I can do, unfortunately. I try to have...
It happens with technology, and alhamdulillah, we managed to benefit, and the summary at the end as well.
Alhamdulillah.
I know we are past the time, but do you have time for a question? We have one
Sure.
in the chat.
Sure.
Okay, so this is from Sister Hajar. She says, Salamun alaikum.
Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah.
Can you please explain what Allama meant by these hadiths deny the attributes and explain that God's saints can join them in that? What attributes in particular was he referring to?
Yeah, Allama is, thank you, it is a very good question. Nafyu Sifat is something that we had it in Aqa'id. As you know, for example, Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha says, Kamalul Ikhlas lah Nafyu Sifat an. Some of you maybe were also in these Arabic lectures on Islamic philosophy by Sheikh Muzaffar. We had this discussion. So Nafyu Sifat means Allah doesn't have qualities which are additional to His essence. Nafyu Sifat. Why? لشهادة كل صفة أنها غير الموصوف. Because every sifa is different from mawsuf. You know, some people believe that we have Allah's essence and 7 qualities additional to the essence. They believed in Qudama al-Thamaniya, in 8 eternal beings. But we believe in Tawheed al-Sifati. We say Allah's attributes are identical with each other and identical with essence in reality, in existence. It means we have one thing from which we can abstract different sifat. Otherwise, it's only one thing. So, Nafyu Sifat is about Tawheed. So, in the discussions about Tawheed and removing or denying anything additional to God, which can also lead to the discussion about Fana, we have reference to this idea. It's just a way Allah wants to refer to those hadiths, that what type of hadiths we are talking about. Hadiths that talk about Tawheed and, everything being dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He in His essence having every quality, every perfection, not as additional.
Thank you very much, Sheikh.
You're welcome.
I think we can end with dua if you.
Okay. So maybe we end with dua faraj. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا وامن علينا برضاه وهب لنا رأفته ورحمته ودعاءه خيره. اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم ارحم موتانا، اللهم اقض حوائجنا، اللهم اغننا من الفقر وأد عنا الدين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. May Allah inshallah be always with you and protect you and your family inshallah, and brothers and sisters who are around you. التماس دعاء.
Thank you very much, Sheikh.
Thank you very much. التماس دعاء. خدا حافظ.